There are moments in life when everything goes quiet, not peaceful quiet, not the kind of quiet you choose, the kind that arrives uninvited, settling over you like a fog, so thick you can't see your own hands in front of your face. You know the feeling. You've been inside it. Maybe you're inside it right now. In that darkness, you stop asking big questions. You stop planning 5 years ahead. You stop wondering about purpose or potential or the future. You ask only one thing. Where's the light? Not because you are weak, not because you have given up, but because something ancient and deeply human inside you understands. Without light, there is no forward. Without even the smallest flame, the path disappears. And here's what nobody tells you about that moment. The light you are drawn to says everything about the light you already carry. You did not find your way to this video by accident. Something brought you here. Something quiet. Something underneath logic. Something that does not explain itself. And before we go any further, I want you to do one thing. Look at the 6 light sources in front of you. A single candle burning alone. A lantern floating on dark water. A lighthouse standing in a storm. A field of fireflies blinking in the night. Sunlight breaking through trees. And the northern lights, silent and vast, moving across a sky that has no ceiling. Do not think. Do not choose the most beautiful one or the most logical one. Let your eyes soften. Let something inside you lean toward one of them before your mind has time to interrupt. That pull is not random. That pull is the beginning of everything we are about to explore. Carl Jung spent his life studying what happens in the space between what we know about ourselves and what we haven't yet discovered. He believed that symbols, images, the things that draw us without explanation, are the language the unconscious uses when words are too slow, too small, too controlled. Light is one of the oldest symbols in the human psyche. Across every culture, every century, every mythology ever told, light represents the same things: consciousness, truth, the path forward, the divine, the self. But here is what makes this test different from a simple symbol quiz. It is not just about what light means in the abstract. It is about which light you need right now, which quality of illumination your inner world is currently seeking, which kind of guidance your soul recognizes as its own. The candle person and the lighthouse person are walking completely different inner roads, even if their outer lives look similar. The firefly person and the northern lights person are drawn to light for entirely different reasons, even if they both feel lost. Your choice is a mirror, a specific, honest, quietly accurate mirror. Take a breath, hold your choice in mind, and let us begin. You have been your own light in rooms that were never lit for you. If the single candle drew you in, that one small flame burning alone, steady and golden, holding its glow against the darkness that dwarfs it, then your soul has chosen the most intimate symbol of human resilience that exists. And I want to say something before anything else. You have been in a very dark room for a while, not because you failed, not because you made wrong choices, but because life sometimes places us in darkness that was never our fault and hands us nothing but a single match. And you lit it. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most courageous acts a human being can perform. The single candle does not illuminate the whole room. It does not pretend to. It offers only enough light to see the next step. And people who choose this symbol have learned, sometimes through tremendous pain, to stop demanding that the whole road be visible before they are willing to move. You have learned to trust the small light, the one that flickers, the one that might go out, the one that costs you something to keep burning. In Jungian psychology, this quality belongs to what he called the individuating self, the self that is willing to do the inner work without guarantee of reward. The candle person does not need applause, does not need an audience, does not need circumstances to align perfectly before they begin. They begin anyway in the dark, with whatever light they can find. This is extraordinary, and it is also exhausting in ways that are difficult to put into words, because the candle requires tending. It cannot be set down and forgotten. It needs protection from the wind. It demands your presence, your attention, your hands cupped around it when the draft comes. And you have been doing this, perhaps for longer than anyone around you truly understands. Protecting a light that the world keeps trying to extinguish. Staying close to your own small warmth when everything outside feels cold. There is something else the single candle reveals. a certain loneliness, not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of being the only one in the room who can see clearly what the darkness contains. The candle person is often the person others do not notice is struggling, because the candle is still burning, because the light is still on, because you still show up. But showing up with a candle takes everything you have, and you have been doing it alone. Jung wrote that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. But I would add to that, the greatest burden a soul must bear is a light it was never allowed to set down. The responsibility of illuminating not just your own path, but the paths of those around you, while your own hands tremble. What blooms for you now, what the candle is asking of you, is permission. Permission to let someone else hold the light for a moment. Permission to receive warmth instead of only giving it. Permission to stop being so quietly, persistently, heartbreakingly brave all by yourself. You have never needed a spotlight. You never asked for one. But you deserve, at minimum, for someone to notice the extraordinary effort it takes to keep a small candle burning through a long and difficult night. The candle is not a symbol of limitation. It is a symbol of devotion to your own light, to your own truth, to the path only you can walk. You are still burning. That matters more than you know. You have released what you cannot control, and that is the bravest thing. If the lantern floating on dark water caught your breath, that small, glowing vessel drifting quietly on a surface you cannot see the bottom of, then your soul has chosen a symbol of the most beautiful and most painful kind of surrender. Letting go, not the easy letting go, not the letting go of things that were already leaving, the letting go of things you loved, plans you had built carefully, people you thought would stay, versions of yourself you spent years becoming, only to find that life was asking you to become someone different. The lantern on water is an act of release. In many cultures across Asia, paper lanterns are placed on rivers as offerings to the dead, as prayers for the living, as messages sent to places hands cannot reach. They are not thrown. They are placed gently, deliberately, with both grief and grace, onto a current that will carry them somewhere you cannot follow. If this symbol spoke to you, it is likely because you have placed something on the water recently, or you're being asked to, something that mattered enormously, something that still glows inside you even as it drifts away. People drawn to this symbol are often in the middle of a grief they do not always have language for. Not necessarily the grief of death, though sometimes that too, but the grief of change, the grief of an identity outgrown, the grief of a future imagined so vividly it felt real and then didn't arrive, the grief of loving something or someone and still having to let the current take them. In Jungian terms, this is the work of the psyche processing loss through symbol. The lantern on water says, I cannot hold this anymore, but I will not throw it away either. I will honor it. I will watch it as it goes. I will grieve it properly, not quickly. This is a profound and mature way to move through pain. It is not numbness. It is not denial. It is not the forced positivity that says, everything happens for a reason before the wound has even closed. It is a willingness to stand at the water's edge, to feel the full weight of what is leaving, and to release it with love instead of bitterness. But here is where the lantern reveals its shadow. Sometimes the releasing never quite happens. You stand at the water's edge, and you watch the lantern float away, and something inside you wants to wade in after it, to catch it before it goes too far, to bring it back to shore and hold it one more time. If you chose the symbol, ask yourself honestly, is there something you've been trying to release for a long time that you keep calling back? A relationship, a resentment, a story about who you are and what you deserve that you cannot seem to let drift away? The lantern does not judge you for this, but it does ask a gentle, persistent question. What would become possible in your life if you finally let the current take what it has already taken? The water knows where it is going. The lantern was always meant to float. What is illuminating your path right now is not the light you are holding. It is the light you are brave enough to release. You have become the stability you were never given. If the lighthouse pulled your gaze, that tall, solitary tower standing firm in the middle of a storm, light turning steadily, endlessly, regardless of the weather, then your soul has chosen one of the most powerful and quietly heartbreaking symbols of strength that exists. You have been the lighthouse for other people for a long time, possibly your whole life. The lighthouse does not move. It does not abandon its post when the storm arrives. It does not dim its light because the waves are rough or because no one is watching or because it is tired. It simply keeps turning, keeps warning, keeps guiding, keeps saying, "Here, there are rocks here. Come toward me. You will be safe here." People who choose a lighthouse have often become this for the people in their lives. The stable one, the reliable one, the one people call when everything is falling apart. The one who somehow always knows what to say, what to do, how to hold the situation together, while everyone else is overwhelmed. And this is a genuine gift. There is real power in being someone others can orient themselves by. There is real meaning in being a steady presence in an unsteady world. But the lighthouse also stands alone. It is beautiful, and it is solitary, and it is permanent in a way that other structures are not. And sometimes the question it asks is, who guides a lighthouse when a lighthouse is lost? Who keeps watch over the one who keeps watch over everyone else? Who calls to you when you are the one adrift? Jung spoke of the persona, the role we inhabit so completely that we forget there is a self beneath it. The lighthouse person has often built their identity around being needed, being reliable, being the one who does not fall apart. And this identity is not false. It is real, but it is incomplete. Because beneath the lighthouse keeper's dedication is often a person who learned very early that their needs were secondary, that their storms were less important, that being strong was the price of being loved. You did not become this way because you are broken. You became this way because you were perceptive enough to understand what was needed and generous enough to provide it, even at cost of yourself. But the lighthouse that never turns its light inward eventually cannot see its own foundations cracking. What is illuminating your path right now is the permission to be guided for once, to let someone else hold the map, to allow yourself to be the one who is uncertain, who is lost, who needs a light in the dark, without that feeling like failure. The ships you have guided safely to shore are real. Your steadiness has mattered, but you're also allowed to dock. You are also allowed to rest. You are also allowed to stop turning for just long enough to remember who you are when you are not being strong for everyone else. The lighthouse does not only guide others. In the right light, it can finally guide itself home. You have always known how to find magic in the dark. If the fireflies captured your heart, that scattering of tiny, blinking lights across a dark summer field, each one appearing for just a moment before vanishing and reappearing somewhere unexpected, then your soul has chosen a symbol of wonder, of intuition, and of the kind of guidance that cannot be planned or predicted, only followed. People who choose fireflies do not trust maps, not because they are irresponsible, but because their inner GPS operates on a frequency that maps cannot capture. You navigate by feeling, by flickers of knowing that arrive without explanation and disappear before you can fully examine them, by synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that Jung spent decades trying to explain, that feel less like accidents and more like whispers from something larger than yourself. The firefly does not illuminate the whole path. It lights up for 1 second in one place, just long enough for you to take one step in that direction, and then another firefly lights up somewhere else, and you follow that one, and the path is never straight, and it is never fully visible, and it is extraordinarily beautiful. This is how your life moves, not in straight lines, not according to 5-year plans. In moments of sudden clarity, followed by beautiful uncertainty, followed by another moment of clarity. You have probably been told that this is a problem, that you need to be more linear, more organized, more goal-oriented, that you cannot simply follow flickering lights through dark fields. But here is what those people do not understand. The firefly person arrives somewhere the map people never could, because you follow light that the rational mind cannot see. You sense doors before they open. You feel the rightness of a direction before there is any evidence for it. You move toward warmth before you can explain why. Jung called this a transcendent function, the psyche's ability to access knowing beyond the rational. And you live inside this function more naturally than most people ever will. The shadow of this gift is restlessness. Fireflies do not stay in one place, and neither do you always. There could be a fear of stillness, a discomfort with ordinary moments, a longing for the magic to keep flickering even when life is asking for something quieter and more sustained. The firefly also teaches this. Not every light is a direction. Some are just beauty. Some are just reminders that the dark is not empty. Some are just invitations to stop moving for one moment and simply witness the miracle of small lights in large darkness. What is illuminating your path right now is your own extraordinary sensitivity to the invisible. Trust the flicker. Follow the small light. And when the field goes dark between moments, do not decide that the light is gone. It is simply gathering itself for the next appearance. You are finally returning to yourself. If sunlight breaking through a canopy of trees is the image that stopped you, those golden shafts falling through leaves, dappled and warm, illuminating a forest floor in patches of light and shadow, then your soul has chosen the symbol of gentle, earned awakening, not the blinding flash of sudden revelation, not the dramatic rescue of a lighthouse beam in a storm, but the slow, patient return of light after a long time in shade, the kind of light that arrives not all at once, but in pieces, through gaps, between leaves, one warm patch at a time. This is where you are. You are emerging. Something has been shifting in you. Quietly, without fanfare, without you necessarily having the words for it. A heaviness that was present for a long time is beginning, gradually, to lift. Something that was closed is opening, not dramatically, but the way a window opens when someone simply decides to let the air in after a long winter. People drawn to sunlight through trees are often people who have been in an emotional forest for some time. Not lost exactly. You knew where you were, but deep in shadow, in the thick of grief, or the thick of a difficult relationship, or the thick of a version of yourself that no longer fit. Deep enough that you forgot, for a while, what direct sunlight felt like. And now the trees are thinning. Light is finding you through the gaps. Jung spoke of the stage as the beginning of conscious integration, when the psyche has done enough underground work, enough shadow processing, enough quiet internal rearranging, that it can begin to turn its face toward light again. This is not the same as the light never having been absent. It is a recognition that you survived the shade, that something in you kept growing, even without direct sunlight, that you are more rooted now than you were before the shadow came. There is something else in this image worth noticing. Sunlight through trees is never pure. It is always mixed with shadow. The light falls in patterns, not in floods. And you, right now, in this season of your life, are learning that this is not a flaw, that wisdom is always light and shadow together, that a life worth living is not one lived entirely in brightness, but one that has moved through enough darkness to understand what the light costs and what it offers. You are not looking for blinding certainty right now. You're looking for enough light to see by, enough warmth to remember that warmth exists, enough clarity to take the next step without needing the whole forest illuminated. What is lighting your path right now is a slow, irreversible return of your own aliveness, your own warmth, your own capacity for joy that you thought, for a while, might have been permanently dimmed. It was not dimmed. It was waiting in the roots, and now it is rising toward the light, the way every living thing does, eventually, when conditions are finally right. You are returning to yourself. Take your time. The forest is beautiful, and you have earned this light. You were never meant to live small. If the northern lights are what called to you, that vast, silent, impossible display of color moving across a sky with no ceiling, green and violet and gold rippling over the dark like a dream the universe is having about itself, then your soul has chosen a symbol that cannot be contained, cannot be explained, and cannot be held in ordinary language. You were never meant to live a small life, not in a grandiose sense, not in the sense of fame or wealth or achievement as the world measures it, in the sense that your inner life is simply too vast for the ordinary containers you've been handed. Your capacity for wonder is too large, your longing for meaning too deep, your sense that there is something more, something just beyond what you can see and touch and measure, too persistent to be quieted. The northern lights appear only in certain conditions. You cannot summon them on demand. You cannot control them or predict their exact form. You can only go to the right place, wait in the right darkness, and trust that something extraordinary will appear in its own time, in its own way, exceeding every expectation you had. People who choose this symbol have been waiting for something they cannot fully name, not for a specific outcome. You are too wise for that kind of fixed hoping, but for a sense of contact with something larger. A sense that your life connects to something that matters in the deep sense of the word. A sense of the sacred, not necessarily religious, but the specific and irreplaceable feeling of smallness in the face of something enormous and beautiful that exists entirely on its own terms. You have likely felt this before. In nature, in music, in a conversation that went somewhere neither person expected, in a moment of stillness so complete that you forgot, briefly, to worry about who you are and what you are supposed to be doing. Those moments are not accidents. They are the northern lights of your own psyche showing itself to you. Jung called these experiences numinous, encounters with something that transcends the ordinary self. He believed they were not interruptions to psychological health, but the very core of it, that the soul requires contact with the numinous the way the body requires water, that without it we survive but do not truly live. The shadow of this gift is a certain restlessness with the everyday, with the ordinary, with the mundane requirements of being a human being in a world of grocery lists and minor frustrations and conversations that stay entirely on the surface. You can feel, at times, like you are living on the wrong frequency, like everyone around you is watching a screen, and you keep looking at the sky. This is not a disorder. This is your nature. The Northern Lights person does not need to be fixed. They need to be given enough silence, enough darkness, enough wide open sky to encounter what they were made to encounter. What is illuminating your path right now is not something small or safe or easily explained. It is the slow arrival of your own full dimension, the part of you that has been too large for the spaces you were given, finally approaching a space that is large enough. Go north. Wait in the dark. The lights are already coming. You have never needed a ceiling. 6 lights. 6 completely different ways that the human soul finds its way forward when the path is unclear. The candle person tends their own small flame with extraordinary devotion. The lantern person practices the courage of release. The lighthouse person is given stability to everyone around them and is only now learning to receive it. The firefly person trusts the flicker, the felt sense, the intuition that doesn't show its work. The sunlight through trees person is in the sacred, gradual process of return. And the Northern Lights person is finally approaching a life large enough to hold everything they are. None of these lights is better than another. None is more spiritual, more evolved, more correct. They are simply different expressions of the same fundamental truth. You are not lost. You are lit. The darkness you've been navigating was never evidence that the light was gone. It was evidence that you were in a part of the journey where the light looks different, smaller sometimes, more distant, more uncertain, but always there, always returning, always, in the end, sufficient for the next step. Jung believed that consciousness itself is a kind of light, that the act of becoming aware of who we are is the act of bringing light into darkness. Every moment you have spent trying to understand yourself, to be honest with yourself, to grow in the direction of your own truth. Every one of those moments has been a form of illumination. You are not waiting for the light. You are the light. In whatever form this test revealed to you, the devoted flame, the released lantern, the steady tower, the intuitive flicker, the returning warmth, the vast and impossible aurora, that is not a description of the light outside you. It is a description of the light within you. The path forward is already lit. You have been lighting it all along. Tell me in the comments which light source called to you, and did something in the description feel true in a way you hadn't quite put into words before? Your reflection might be exactly what someone else needed to find their own light today. If this resonated, please like the video and subscribe so we can continue walking this path together. Until next time, stay close to your light, even when it flickers, especially when it flickers. That is when it matters most.